Now we are recording and we are live. So why don't we just start off? I will just say that I'm Jenn Grace and I'm the CEO and founder of Publish Your Purpose Press. And Talonya Geary is our newest author. So tell us a little bit about your book. I love the kind of synergy between what you're doing and what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember when we first met. I know I'll go back to the original question, but I remember when we first met, and I've watched your publishing company, and we met and talked about the book. And this is my first book, so I wanted to shop the process and really move into this published phase with, some education around it. And I have to say, I kept coming back to Publish Your Purpose Press for obvious reasons. The book Go Do How to Live on Purpose is all about that. So to me, it just seemed like it was a no-brainer to me. And then obviously now having worked with you and your team, I'm so glad that I did. So thank you. So back to the original question, the book is about a lifestyle, about living a lifestyle and making decisions each day that collectively allow each person to live on purpose. And what I talk about in the book is that living on purpose and leading on purpose doesn't have to be this grandiose, out of touch or out of reach goal. It can actually be something you live each day by making decisions each day. And I give the reader an outline of 6 different areas of their life that they can concentrate on to make sure that each day is filled with purpose and is guided by purpose. The book is really 3 things combined together to create one experience, which is my life story. There's some stories in this book that I've never told anybody. And, quite honestly, the journey of writing the book pulled some of those stories out, and I wasn't expecting to tell those stories, but I'm glad I did. And the second part of the book are these 6 principles that I've lived by for several years. It's kind of at its baseline, it's a daily kind of vision and goal setting and purpose-driven process. And the third aspect of the book is really the research and the science behind these 6 principles, because I wanted to lend the book to credibility and not just say, here's my story and it can work. If it worked for me, it can work for you. I wanted to also combine it with something actionable. And then the third thing is, okay, so it worked for me, but here's all the science and the data behind why it works if you're someone like me who's really influenced by numbers and by research.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you are the epitome of your book in terms of your go-do. Like, so if anybody, like, we're broadcasting live to Facebook, but this will be on YouTube and, shareable elsewhere. But if anyone goes to your personal Facebook page, whatever posts you have that are public, you are always doing, you are always going. And I feel like you don't just say something like, oh, go do blah, blah, blah. Like, your stuff is really inspiring and it's very purpose-filled. Like, it's very clear to me how much thought and effort that you put into even, a simple Facebook post. So, is that part of a marketing strategy, if you will, or were you hashtagging go do long before this book came to be?
The second, the latter. I started, in the book I talk about where the title comes from. It's an emotional story. It's extremely vulnerable for me to share that story. But the book title came from a song that really transformed me and was really a catalyst of pulling me out of a pretty difficult time in my life. And that time in my life and that song and that kind of transformation that I went through was really the beginning and the catalyst of who I am today and who I've become over the last, probably 5, actually going on 10 years now, because in the book I talk about it, an experience that happened in 2008 and that changed everything for me. So it started organically, it was authentic, and it was very much guided. Like, I wasn't, when I started even using the hashtag GoDo, it wasn't for a marketing strategy. It wasn't for, I have this future-paced vision that I'm going to write a book called GoDo at all. It was very authentic and very organic. And I was guided through this process. I started helping people in various aspects. And I think when you have a particular experience in your life that's transformational, you know it, and so do other people. And I think people are drawn to you and they want to they want to, learn how you did it or what you did or how you're doing it. And so I started engaging in a lot of conversations about, people will come to me, well, how do I this, or what do I do about that? Or what do you think about this? And my response was always the same. Well, if you want to do this, you just have to go do it. Mm-hmm. And if somebody would Google the lyrics to this song, Go Do, they would understand why this song can be so influential. And it's really been influential for me. So to answer your question, it started off organically. It felt right. It felt real to me. I'm not a fake person. You'll never see me, if I'm not in a great time in my life, you won't see me publishing greatness. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very, where I'm at and what you see online is where I'm at. And don't get me wrong, there are times when I want to make sure it looks good, because I think that that's the integrity you put into your life, but it's very real. And you're right. I mean, I don't sit down and say, how do I make this fit into a marketing plan? It's what serves people, and what serves this message, what serves this mission, and quite honestly, what serves my life each day, because that's the goal of the book, which is to make sure you're living your life.
I feel like the content that you put out already is very authentic and genuine, and I feel like you can feel that.
Thank you. That's really generous of you to say, and I think that means a lot to me, because I see content that other people push out that is authentic and it's really attractive and it's magnetic. And I also see people who push out content that feels forced, and it feels very like scripted, like here's what other successful influencers do, so I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. Or here's what the person that I'm modeling, which there's nothing wrong with modeling. I think it's essential, but I always want to make sure that it's my voice, it's my life, it's my message, it's my vulnerability, it's my story, it's my advice, it's my thought leadership, it's my learning, and so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. And one of the questions that I kind of have for you, because I know how hard it can be to write a memoir, and I know how hard it can be to write a book, a nonfiction book. Right. And very often the two of those things are kind of lumped together in a book very similar to yours, because it's not a memoir, but you go deep on sharing stories that you have admittedly said, even on some of the Facebook Lives that I've seen you do, or Instagram videos, that like, this wasn't fun to talk about, or this wasn't fun to share. How did you find that balance between how deep do I share this story and how is this relevant to my reader?
That was a journey in itself. And I even write in the book, I remember writing in the book that I'm so glad I waited till now to do X in this book or Y in this book, because the book is real now. If I would have published the book, even as early as last December, I remember kind of putting the book away, saying I'm done, and knowing inside that it wasn't done, but I didn't know why. And the reason why it wasn't done is because it didn't have me in it. It was very much like, here's how you go do, and this is what it looks like, and this is how you can have, I don't know if you remember, but originally one of the original titles of the book used to be Go Do, How to Get Whatever the Hell You Want. And that was the essence of the book. If you whatever the hell you want to get, like, here are some things that will help propel you to do that. And I even use that. I say that in the book at various times. I still kept that in there because that's something I would say to somebody. So that's organic. But there were people that pushed me. I had a mentor of mine, Carol Ann Decker. If she watches this, thank you. Carol Ann really pushed me to go deep, because some people close to me know and knew what I was going through at some of the times that I write about in the book. And they are like, I'm pretty sure that you can go a little bit deeper. And by the way, I would understand if you don't want to go deeper, Talonya. However, I feel like if you're willing to, and if you will jump into that uncertainty and jump into that vulnerability, your reader's going to really trust you and connect with you and relate to you. And that to me is unbelievably like one of the primary outcomes when I speak in front of an audience. It's to connect with them. It's to be real and relatable. It's not, to position myself as I'm here and look to me for all your solutions. It's really like, no, my life is testament that I have eaten my own cooking, and it works for me. It's worked for me. And I felt like the only way to truly show that to people was to share with them how I had really truly kind of overcome some pretty difficult times. So it was a journey. And then there were times, I'm not sure if I think I shared this story with you at one of our calls in August, that I was, Nikki had sent me back the manuscript and had put attention on a particular area. And I remember it kind of triggering me like, oh, I'm going to have to tell more about that story. And so I remember sitting down and literally like an hour, I was just typing and stopped. And I went back and read this, part of the book. And I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe I just shared all that. And so there are times in the book and there are times in the writing process that I was extremely guided. And I was surprised by some of the things that ended up on, my laptop. And I was surprised by some of the stories that I would tell, but I'm so grateful that I did. I'm so grateful that those stories are in there. And I also feel like I could go back and just add even more because now it's kind of opened up this willingness to be vulnerable. And so I'm completely willing to go deep now. And that's also helped me in relationships outside of the book.
And I would imagine that this is going to help your audience too, because if somebody's reading the book and they want because there is tactical advice in here. There's the practical and tactical, but I feel like kind of to your point about the change in subtitle is when we're talking about the tactical and practical, it makes it a completely different book. Whereas you're a personal brand unto yourself, you are a business owner, a serial business owner, a serial entrepreneur, I would say. And this is just part of the bigger package of who you are. And I think this may be kind of the anchoring piece at this point, because it did make you have to go more vulnerable as much as maybe you were kicking and screaming on your way there.
Yeah, it did, for sure. Yeah, it definitely did. And it's, like I said, I'm really glad that I did. I think that the reader, I think there's a part in the book too that I mentioned something like, I'm very transparent about, look, I don't have it all figured out. And this book isn't here to tell you I do. This book is to remind you that you don't have to have it all figured out. And you can still, you're never going to have it all figured out, and just know that and embrace that. But here are things that you can do to figure some of these things out. And that's fun. And it's important and it's necessary. And it works. I mean, it works.
So would you say that this was the most difficult part of the process for you, or was there some other point in the writing and or publishing process that felt more challenging?
I wouldn't say, I think that the challenge, there are two parts that I remember being challenging. And I want to speak to people when I say this, that have a book inside of them or that have started it, or it's in their mind. Is the hardest challenge for me to overcome was stepping into the identity as an author and saying, okay, yeah, Talonya, you're a serial entrepreneur. You've had business successes. You've had business failures. You're all of these things, but are you an author? Are you really do you have a New York Times bestseller in you? And that I had to overcome that doubt. And I would say immediately when you asked that question, that was the gut reaction that came out. Writing the book, the second part, I think, quite honestly, if I'm going to be transparent, has been like these last 2 or 3 months, because the book is done, and it's almost like, you're engaged and that you're going to get married on a date, and you're just like, and it's the wedding planners involved, and the in-laws and all this other stuff is in the picture. And so you're just like, can't we just get married already? So, that's that second part, the waiting between the time between the time I kind of signed off on the manuscript and was like, okay, you're perfect as you are. And now, looking at October 10th as the launch date, the go live that everybody in the world can have their hands on it. That part has been a test for me, for sure.
I personally, having written books myself, I totally can relate to that, because it's almost, I have children, but I have not been pregnant. But if you go 9 months and then it's for crying, just come out already. It just needs to be done. I think that's probably the best, the best type of descriptor of that, because there is so much work involved in getting it to the right place. I would say one of the things that I noticed to be challenging is, when do you stop? Like, when do you say, like, here's the book, here's my beloved baby, you know, in the flesh, which I love the cover. It's just so bright and vibrant. And how do you know when to stop actually writing? Because I think that I think that was somewhere in there was a struggle of like, when do you just say like, okay, I'm done. Like this, I have to, like, I need to just start thinking about book 2 to start putting these other thoughts into.
Yeah, well, do you remember the time when I sent the manuscript back with 2 extra chapters?
I do.
Do you remember that? I was like, oh man, I just kind of like slid that in when I sent it back. And and I got this email. Well, we weren't expecting to see 2 more chapters, but that's a good question. I think you just have to, I remember that experience, that kind of crossroads of, okay, let it go. And there were people in my life, my best friend, Paul, who is a really successful consultant, education consultant, successful author, also has a publishing company. I remember him saying, you just gotta let it go. You just stop, you know, and it's never going to be perfect, but you have to get it out there, Talonya. Another thing was, you know, trusting that, you know, there's also, you know, it's perfectly imperfect, to kind of quote a Brene Brown quote, you know, it's not perfect, but it's also perfectly imperfect. And so just trusting that process, and then also wanting to meet other outcomes, like what else is going on in my life that I needed to make sure this book was out to support those, and also so I could support the book, actually. Because I remember we were trying to really push it. Remember, like May, I was like, can we get this book out in May? And you were like, I mean, like, hats off to you, Jenn, because you know, your last name is perfect, because you like held it with grace, and you're like, you know, and I look back at it now and I laugh, because we're about 9 months into this now, you know, after once the book was done, like done, I mean, done, like here's a manuscript for us to do something with. It's been 9 months. And I wanted to push it like to 2 months, like, or 3 or something.
It was something obscene, but I'm like, you know what? We can try. Like, you know, the worst that can happen is it doesn't work.
You were so great. I do, like, I look back and I kind of laugh about it, because I'm like, I remember asking, is that crazy? And you were like, yeah, it's crazy, but we can try. And now I look back and going, there's no way you're going to get that book done in time.
But the thing is that you don't know what you don't know about the process until you get into the process. And I think that that's the thing that is so eye-opening for almost everybody that we work with, is that you think that it's going to go one way, and it opens up all sorts of cans of worms. It's like picking at scabs. There's all kinds of emotions that pop up. And then there's all the logistical stuff of, oh, wow, I didn't think editing was going to take as long as it did. Or I thought that and I'm not saying for you specifically, like, I thought I was a better writer from when I started, and then the editor had to tear it up 100 times. Not your case, thankfully, but it happens. So, you know, like, what was, I guess, maybe one of the unexpected outcomes from just the whole process, or one of the most unexpected areas of the process? Good or bad?
Good or bad? That's a tough question to answer. Unexpected. I feel like the most unexpected part was, you nailed it when you said, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I should always expect to not know what I don't know, but I didn't expect that with this. I expected, there are little things like, and this is going to sound silly, but I didn't expect everybody to, you know, to like, you have this, I remember having this breakthrough where I realized, oh wow, like, Jenn and Nikki and the whole team, they have other authors to service, you know, just to support and serve. And they have other things that go, you know, going on. Like, it's not just me. And I don't mean that in like a narcissistic way. It was just like, you know, Tanya, you have to be patient. You know, you took 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever to do this, give them time. And so, like, that kind of pacing was, I wouldn't say unexpected bad or unexpected good. It was just, I had to get conditioned in that process.
I think it does take time. I think it's control, like, because I think of myself, like, I think it's a control thing, because because we are so driven, like, type A, get shit done, go do, like there's all these things. And then you're like, well, now I have to hand it to somebody else and they have to do something with it. Like it's not something that I can control all of the pieces of. And I remember when I published Beyond the Rainbow, which was in 2017, which is my 4th book of my LGBTQ series. And it took way longer than I wanted it to because of just trying to get testimonials in the forward squared away. And talk about wanting control and being completely impatient of like, just gonna have to sit and wait. And I think that's the first time you and I met was actually at my book launch in New York City that June. Yeah, when it was the women's book event or some. Oh,
that's right. That's when
that's when we first may have encountered one another.
Yeah, that's true. That was, I remember that night. That was, I remember it was at the Empire Well.
Yep.
I remember.
Yeah, during Pride Month. Cool. So, I can totally relate. And I think the great thing is that I can speak from personal experience from a publisher side and an author side. So it's like, trust me, like control is such a challenging thing for all of us, I think. So
I agree.
How does this, you had said something a little while ago, how does this relate into you as a person, personal brand, and your business? So how is the book supporting your business and how are you supporting the book? But I guess to start, I know what your business is, but our audience doesn't. So why don't you just kind of share what your business is first?
Sure. I own a talent development firm here in New York City that focuses on leadership development and either one-to-one coaching or one-to-many coaching in the corporate space. I got into this space several years ago after working with Tony Robbins. I started working with him in 2007, and he introduced me to this whole other world of personal and professional development well before other people were talking about personal and professional development. It was always, self-help or, some other term, but, Tony really standardized the importance and the necessity for development, both on a personal side and obviously on a professional, corporate, entrepreneurial, so on and so forth side. So I got into that space organically, and then I started to notice that there's a need obviously to support companies and individuals like across many scopes. So that's what I do now. And the book, I feel like the book is like a cousin to that business. It's not necessarily like the brother, sister, or son or daughter. It's very much a cousin in that I have companies now that I've worked with that are bringing me in to do a speaker series where I'm specifically talking about the content of the book now. Mm-hmm. So the book has really helped open some doors with reopen doors, I should say, with past clients, but it's also opened up new doors because let's face it, there's credibility gets lent to authors. Mm-hmm. And by the way, credibility should be lent to authors. It really should. I feel like when you write a book, it's not for me, it wasn't a 90-day or 60 or even a 6-month process. You have to reach a level of mastery in your book, I believe. If your book's going to be good and credible, and if it's going to have integrity, you have to reach a level of mastery. Mm-hmm. And so the book actually, now that I'm saying that, it really kind of even accelerated my own confidence because I felt like a master after I was done with it. And it's because I invested time in it and I invested money. I put everything behind it. Mm-hmm. And I did the research. I put a team around me to help me make sure that I was putting like a product out there, an experience out there that was credible. And so as far as how that relates, the book is helping me get on more platforms and stages. Luckily, I'd already had a speaking background and had already been out and about since about maybe 2011. So I have 7 or so years behind me, but the book is definitely getting me on bigger stages and in front of bigger audiences. And that was definitely an outcome. Not just business sense, but there's a mission behind what I'm doing. It's very purpose driven, obviously. And for me, I can't fulfill on that purpose if I'm not reaching more people. So the book was definitely strategically, intentionally, spiritually put into my day-to-day process to help me reach more people, to influence more people to live on purpose and to teach them what it means to do that. And it doesn't matter if it's a one-to-one person or me in front of a corporate team.
That so segued so beautifully into kind of like my ending questions around like impact. You know, how do you want your book to really make an impact on people? And I love that you just kind of were saying like the one-to-one or the one-to-many. That's something that a book 100% kind of elevates and raises the standard exponentially to say, well, now, you know, you might not be able to, I don't want to say have access in like a restrictive way, but, you know, maybe somebody doesn't have, they're not location wise, they don't have access to you, or financially they don't have access to you, but everyone for the most part can afford a $15-$20 dollar book, you know. So I think there's so much to be said around that, and how you can then package your book into speaking engagements. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I know the majority of our authors are actually, I think it might be everybody, does public speaking of one sort or another. Do you have visions already for how you plan on, or have you already been doing this?
Yes. Yes and yes. I do have a vision. If I were to, to go back to the original question, what's the impact? I have a very tangible impact when I close my eyes, and quite honestly, when I journal each day. Every single day I write this, and that is that my purpose is to inspire a community of 1 million people to go do in the face of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. And period. And so for me, that means, an individual, it means a team, it means an audience online, it means an international stage. It's whatever I need to do to get to that. My goal is to enroll a community of 1 million people that are actively engaged in what it means to go do and living by those principles and sharing those principles. So absolutely, I have a big vision impact, which is that. And then the other impact is, just I would like to create a series of that comes after this. When I wrote this book, as I was transforming through the process, I realized, and this hit me, I believe before even writing the book, that like I'm going, doing. I'm like this quintessential go-doer, right? However, it did hit me at one point that there are these other aspects that are just as important as doing, which is doing good. And so when I was writing the book, I had my own transformation, which was like, Talonya, what's all this go-doing going to get you? And I realized, actually, it was when I started my other company, Spiire, that I had my own kind of, next 2.0 phrase, which was, our goal in life is to reach a level of mastery so that we have enough to give to others. Like, I truly believe that's, and that's why I added the extra chapter, the part 2 in this book, which is all about doing good. And doing good, by the way, is almost like when you watch a movie and there's going to be a sequel. That second part of the book is teeing me up to write a second book, which is all about doing good. Yeah. And to me, that's about going further in the client path or in the impact path for someone who's like, okay, I'm going and doing. And I learned this from Tony, that you can go and do. And, some of the wealthiest people alive are not happy. And the reason why they're not happy is because they're not serving others. Yeah. So for me, the next natural step of this book is to get people out of whatever crap that they're in, or get them over their fear, their doubt, and their uncertainty until their wheels are moving consistently. And now my job, I believe, as a thought leader and as somebody driven by purpose, is to then move these people into serving others. It's not enough for me to just get people or inspire people to go do. It's not enough. It's the start. It's like, but it's what's next for me is getting them to serve others, however that means, getting them to get their mind off of themselves. And by the way, the reason why I wrote this book is because I lost my brother to suicide in 2008. I mean, it is 100% the reason why this book exists. No other reason. And I can say that with absolute certainty. And I'm of the belief that my brother is not with us today because he didn't have purpose. He didn't have, and he didn't live by, and he didn't have the influence that's in this book. And I think, obviously that's an extreme example of what happens when people lose their way or lose their purpose. But I also believe that, you know, he wasn't able, or people aren't able to get to the place where they're not focusing on just themselves. They're able to focus on others.
Mm-hmm.
When you're focused on just what am I getting out of it? Who am I? Like, if it's all just about you, man, you're setting yourself up for quick failure. And I wrote this book to make sure that I could reach one more person to not like have that same outcome as him.
It's so beautiful. And it's so, I'm so inspired by your level of purpose, because not one point have you talked about financial gains in any of this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the true definition of operating with purpose, is that it's impact. It's purpose driven. It's how do I help people? How do I save a life in the instance of what you were just talking about, which is so incredibly profound.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I don't want to just blaze by it, but no, it is. I mean, I'm a business person, so, you know, there on any given day, you'll see me kind of looking at the financials and the numbers, but that's like 10%.
Mm-hmm.
And, the other 90 or 80% of it is so impact driven. And I have to tell you, that is what fulfills my life every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what gets me up in the morning. And that's what tires me out. Like when I go to bed, I'm like, okay, I'm not like, okay, I don't believe in that live every day like it's your last. I think it's bullshit, quite honestly, if I can just throw that out there. I think you have to live every day like it's your life. And that to me is where purpose comes from. You know, you don't have to jump out of airplanes every day because it's going to be your last day on earth, but you do have to find a way every single day to make sure you're living your life. You're living your story, and that you're doing whatever you can to get everything out of the way that is getting in the way of you doing that.
And I so hope that that is a takeaway of this book for people, because your book fulfills my purpose, which my purpose is the same as yours in terms of impacting people. And how do we change lives? How do we impact lives? How do we make sure that that one person makes a different decision that's going to have like a ripple effect on those around them? And for me, it's being the engine behind the scenes that pushes people like you in front of the stage to then sell as many copies, or give away as many copies of this book, and just share your message in whatever humanly possible way there is. And I think that's just so awesome. And why I love your book so much. I feel like there's a variety of reasons, but I feel like it's just in such alignment with who we are as a company and who I am as a person.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree with that, and that's why like I was almost guided to you and guided to your publishing company. And there were times where I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is where we're going. And so many little, like I could probably, if I had more time, tell you all the little things that I felt led me, but I feel extremely grateful that I was led to you. And I do feel in alignment with you and your team and your vision. And I'm actually really grateful that I get to be a part of it, because you and your team have supported me, and you've pushed me forward and given me confidence and support and, patience actually at the times when I needed it most. So thank you.
You are very welcome. This has been such an awesome conversation. So for people who want to find your book, obviously they can go to publisherpurposepress.com. We have a page that has you, the book, links, all that stuff. But how would what's the best way that somebody can get in touch with you or get a copy of your book?
Go to my personal website, talonyageary.com, and everything you need to know about me is there. If you go to talonyageary.com, pre-order, it's there. But if you want to get to know the book there, you want to get to know what else I do as a thought leader, talonyageary.com is the place. And if someone out there is watching is interested in
for spelling,
thank you for that. Thank you for that, because I did an appearance last night, and everybody was, all the feedback was, how do you spell it? And so, yeah, you can also go to godogood.com. godogood.com, and that will redirect you to talonyageary.com. And yeah, if anybody wants to check out, the other work I do, it's spire.org, which is SPIIRE.org.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on today. I look forward to having a conversation in the future, and we can talk about how, how close you have been to reaching that level of 1 million impacted, which I don't think it's going to take long.
Thank you. Thank you. We're definitely on our way, and thank you for all your support to help me get there.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.